Kevin Brooks's book, Lucas, as told by Roseynick. I'm going to read a section of chapter 6, because I think chapter 6 is one of my favourite parts of the book. Thank you. At the sound of the voice, Lucas looked up. The woman was bearing down at him across the sand, her eyes bulging, her lank hair blowing in the wind, and her face twisted with rage. She was brandishing a rolled-up regretter program in her hand and screaming like a banshee. "You pervert! Get away! Go on!" Lucas was too shocked to move, soaked to the skin, with the little girl shivering beside him in the storm raging all around. He stared at the woman with a dazed look and confused innocence on his face. "What? What's happening? What have I done? What's wrong?" The woman was closing. "Get away, Kylie! You get away from him now!" The girl was still groggy and frightened, and the sudden shriek of her mother's voice made her shrink into Lucas's arms. Lucas responded instinctively with a gentle hug and a reassuring smile, but then the woman whacked him across the head with a rolled-up program. "Leave her alone!" she hissed in his face. On the ledge, someone laughed nervously. Lucas stood up and backed away. "I wasn't hurting her," he said simply. The woman whacked him again and yanked her daughter's bikini into shape and started dragging her up the beach, her cold eyes fixed on Lucas. "You! I know what you are, you dirty little bastard!" Lucas was speechless. He looked around, open-mouthed, to the people on the ledge. They looked back at him, dead-eyed, saying nothing. They didn't want to know. It was nothing to do with them. While all of this was happening, I just stood there looking down, too numb to do anything. A sense of unreality had gripped me, moving me from the moment. As if I was watching a film or a play. It was happening. It was there, but I wasn't part of it. I couldn't participate. It was too far away. All I could do was look down in disbelief as a nightmare scene unfolded on the beach. The woman had made her retreat and was standing her ground at the top of the beach, breathless and wild-eyed. Her daughter was standing beside her, sobbing and shaking, pulling pathetically at the straps of her bikini. The people on the ledge were beginning to murmur among themselves. There were about 20 or 30 of them now. I couldn't see Angel or Brenda or Bill, but I could see Jamie and Sarah standing at the back. Jamie had put his jumper back on and seemed to be regaining his pose. He was in control of himself again, talking calmly to a young couple from the village, pointing at the beach, explaining something, shaking his head with concern. Meanwhile, Sarah had separated herself and was standing to one side studying the crowd. Her face was gripped with that strange, emotionless passion I'd noticed earlier, like it was a game to her. A game of a crowd, the dynamics of the crowd. Crowds are strange things. The crowd has a collective mind of its own, a mind that ignores a sense of constant parts and thrives on the lowest passions. The crowd had seen what happened. They'd seen Lucas diving into the girl. They knew the truth. But the truth to a crowd was soon forgotten. The passion of the woman's actions had set doubts in their minds. The collective mind was taking over. I could see it turning. I could see the way they were looking at Lucas. I could imagine their thoughts. We must have done something wrong. Why else would the kid's mother be so angry? Look at him, look at his eyes. He's scared. The boy's scared. If he didn't do anything, why is he so scared? Yeah, he must have done something wrong. Lucas was beginning to move away, backing off towards the rocks. That just made it worse. An admission of his guilt. The crowd seemed to sense it gather in a voice, and this gave the girl's mother more confidence as she started yelling again. "Don't think you'll get away with this, you dirty little perv. I've seen you. We've all seen what you were doing. I'm getting the police onto you. Yeah, go on, that's it, run away. Not so big now, are you?" She spat in the sand. "God, people like you make me sick. I'm getting the police." The wind had started up again. Gusts of sand and rain were swirling in the air, turning the sky grey. I looked down through the mist and saw Lucas quietly melting away in the rocks at the base of the cliff. The woman was still calling after him. The crowd was still looking on. But at least no one was going after him. I couldn't believe what I was thinking. He saved the girl's life while everyone else did nothing. He saved her life. And now I was breathing a sigh of relief because no one was going after him. It was unbelievable. I had to talk to him, I said, turning to go. Dad grabbed my arm. "Whoa, not so fast. I have to talk to him, Dad. You saw what happened. Hold on, Kate. Calm down. But I have to go after him." He looked at me in the eye. "Just calm down a minute. Look at me." His voice was quiet. Rain dripped from his brow. "Kate, look at me. You're not going anywhere until you tell me what's going on." "Nothing's going on." "How do you know this, boy?" "There isn't time, Dad." "Make time," he said calmly. Very calmly. I looked into his eyes and sighed. I met him yesterday on the beach. We talked. Just talked about things. He's a person, Dad. It's not fair. Whereabouts on the beach? Round by the bay at the point. He was fishing for crabs. Crabs? We're just talking about things. He's just like... Just like what? I was going to say he's just like you, but I felt wrong, so I didn't. Said, you'd like him if you met him. He's good, honestly. You saw what he did. That little girl could have died if it wasn't for him. No one else was going to do anything. And when that stupid woman comes along, don't blame her, Kate. She's only trying to protect the girl. But Lucas didn't do anything. I know, love. Squeeze my hand. Don't worry, I'll have a word with her. I'll explain what happened. I'm sure she'll understand. Will you talk to her now? He thought about it for a moment and nodded. I looked at him. I have to go after him, Dad, before it's too late. Too late for what? I gazed out at the beach. The rain was coming down in billowing sheets that merged the landscape with colourless blur. I could just make out the darkened outline of the cliffs, and everything else was a blanket of grey. No perspective, no height, no distance, no sky, no sea, no solid ground. Just a shifting wall of rain. Where will he go? Dad asked. I dunno, I admitted. The woods, probably. Across the point? I nodded. Pfft, shook his head. You're not going there. If I go now, I can catch him on the beach. Dad looked hesitant. Please, I begged. I only want to talk to him. It won't take long. I just want to make sure he's all right. Please. Thinking back at it now, I realised how difficult a decision that was for Dad. Logically, he would have said no. All his instincts must have been telling him to say no. Why on earth should he let his 15-year-old daughter go running off after some strange man in the middle of the storm? Why should he trust her? Why? Because he loved her, that's why. Go on then, he said at last. There was a touch of sadness in his voice. For a moment it crossed my mind not to go. It was reckless, it was unfair, it was stupid and selfish. But then Dad wiped a drop of rain from my cheek and smiled. Don't let me down, Kate. I'm putting more faith in you than I can afford to lose. Don't worry, Dad. I kissed him, thanks. Right, well, I better go and have a word with this mad lady. You take the dog with you, and I'll see you back at the house. If you're not back by 6, I couldn't hear him. I was already halfway across the field.